Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lit Love. I'm Juliana J. I'm a local writer. This is Gary. He's the co-owner of Two Birds Books.
Oh,
And this is Phoenix, book enthusiast. A little book enthusiast. Yeah. Today, we're talking about fantasy and books that we like, books that are out, books we find interesting. Gary, what do you have for us?
all right. Well, I will start by mentioning first a book or a series that needs some mentioning, Dungeon Crawler Carl. It surprisingly is everywhere. A lot of people are reading it. I've read the whole series. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite series of all time, fantasy series of all time. And if you think you might be interested in it, I recommend Dungeon Crawler Carl in general. The first book I'm going to mention specifically is The Red Winter by Cameron Sullivan. So this came out, I want to say maybe beginning of this year, end of last year. It is a dark fantasy about a person who has a demon living inside of them and is going monster hunting to try to help the local king or lord with a monster that they're having problems with and have had problems with for generations. It is adventurous. It's, again, like you said, pretty violent, but the writing is wonderful and the characters are very interesting and flawed. So that is The Red Winter by Cameron Sullivan.
What else you got?
And then I have a series of which I've read the first book, and it is an ongoing series. So the first book is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. And the sequel is also out, called A Drop of Corruption. This is a fantasy series, and it has a very specific Sherlock Holmes and Watson overlay on it. So the main two characters are comps for those two characters. So the mystery here is very strong and very well done. Sometimes genre mashups don't always work as well for me as other kind of straightforward books, but I enjoyed the fantasy-ness of these two books, or of the series, as much as the mystery part of it. And the Sherlock character is one of the most memorable characters of the year for me. She is smart and weird and uncontrollable and unlikable. So she is a lot of fun. That is The Tainted Cup and A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett.
I've been seeing those everywhere as like bookseller recs. Like basically like every store, I feel like especially like A Drop of Corruption, since it just came out, is like the top bookseller rec.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to reading book 2. I definitely will. And I've heard that it's better even than the first one, which I loved. So
Wow. And Sherlock Holmes and Watson, that whole storyline is so popular. You see it all the time in movies and series on Netflix and everywhere you look. And it's so fun. It's getting kind of a revamp here. And Sherlock is a female character, you say?
Yep, that's right.
Love it.
That's right.
I love it.
And I think the nice thing about that Sherlock character that you see, as you say over and over again, is just the personality is so strong. And usually when you're redoing a Sherlock type of character, you really, or an author really lays into the intelligence and the uninterest in connecting with other people and just wanting to be laser focused on the mystery. And that makes them, you want to both root for them and also kind of dislike them, which is always fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. What do you got, Phoenix?
Well, I was gonna go on a
Oh,
long rant.
go on your
yours first.
No, go ahead. Oh, you're going on a long rant?
I don't
Okay.
know how long.
Okay. I'll do mine first. So last year I read When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker, and this is the sequel to that, The Ballad of Falling Dragons. I absolutely loved When the Moon Hatched. The world building was really, really fantastic. I just imagined myself in all the places they were so easily. The main character is deeply flawed and really trying to figure out what's going on, where they want to be in their life, what is true and what is not true, who is a friend and who is a foe, and who is someone in between, and what the past was. Really exploring all of that and trying to come to terms with what has happened to them in the past and how much of that is true and real and not, and who should they be leery of and not leery of, and then also who they are in the world and how they navigate the world and what their job is in the world is really hard? And is it worth going on? And all these questions are coming up in this very complex character, Ren, in her life and what she's doing and working to remember where she's been and what's happened and who is important in her life. And even the people that are important in their life, are they important because they're hurting her, helping her, loving her, hating her, out to get her, trying to kill her, all these things. And in the midst of it, there's dragons. And it's just so beautifully written. I stayed up all night reading it till the end when I read the first book. I just got this book from Gary the other day in the store, Two Birds Books, and I'm really excited to read it. I love it when there's sequels and the story goes on and on. So and I want to also point out how beautiful this book is. Like, I don't know if this is a new thing that I sing a lot in fantasy.
Yes, yeah, in fantasy.
I don't know. Do either of you know how the origin of why they started making fantasy books so incredibly beautiful? I mean, it's worth the buy just for how
Yeah, the
beautiful the book
collection
is.
aspect.
And yeah.
So I've heard that called many different things. My favorite name for that is spridges, for sprayed edges. It's been around for a long time. A lot of
Right.
times things were just kind of gilded in gold.
Yeah.
And then there was a phase in very old books where they were kind of speckled.
Yeah,
edges.
yeah. Marbled.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I think for a long time it was rarely done. This probably came out, or this started being more popular in the last maybe 5 years. There's one specific book, it might have been Fourth Wing, it might have
Yeah.
been something else where that really made it take off.
With the dragons on the side.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, it's new popularity. It's relatively new, and a lot of books are doing it. Mysteries are doing it. General fiction is doing it, and oftentimes they will actually come out with both a deluxe edition and a regular edition. And the deluxe edition has the sprayed edges, and people really love them, and they are beautiful. They do a great job.
It's so beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was excited because sometimes when you buy a hardcover, you're kind of, okay, should I spend the money on the hardcover? Or should I wait for the paperback version to come out? Or should I get it at the library? And it makes it so like, yes, of course I'm getting this book. I mean, look how beautiful it is.
Right,
It's gorgeous. And I feel like,
Sounds really well done.
yeah, it's really beautiful. So I'm really excited to read it. Well, Phoenix, we're ready for your rant, or what do you have?
I'll go over my favorites first. One of my favorite all-time fantasy book series of all times is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. This is just like a book where like immediately I was like 100% hooked. I love her writing style. It's super immersive. I just like felt like really pulled into like the world and like the characters. The characters were so strong. Fantasy is something I have a hard time with as a reader because I am not really someone who reads for like plot propulsion and action. In fact, like if a book is relying on action mainly, I'll get super annoyed and I'll put it down because like that's not really what drives me to read. What drives me to read is characters and like their journey. And like I need to be attached to the character first. And if I'm going to travel, like go with them through thousands of pages. Like I don't give a shit about the plot. I give a shit about the characters, And it's hard with fantasy because often I feel like that's a trade-off. Like you give up the characters for the plot. And this is just one of those books where I was like, oh, it doesn't really like have to be this way. Like I felt like I totally knew Ren actually. And like you're just like let totally into like her mind and her world and like how she thinks and her complications. I really love too that Huang let her be very extremely like morally like dark gray black, and I just felt like that was realistic to like what was happening in the book. Like you can't experience the trauma that Rin experiences and stay morally pure that's when you don't really like have help and that's not really supported in your arc. Like staying morally pure is kind of a luxury and a privilege that a lot of characters don't have, and I think it's very unrealistic to be like, oh yes, they stayed morally pure the whole time despite everything that happened to them. In fact, this is kind of like a throwback, but that's one of my main beefs with Harry Potter is that, like Harry stays so morally pure the whole time, even though like these like atrocious things happen to him, he never really like gets a backslide moment. In fact, my favorite Harry Potter book is The Order of the Phoenix because like that's the one where he's allowed to backslide a little bit, but then That's also everyone else's like least favorite book of the Harry Potter series because I think he's like emo and complains a lot. I could go on and on about that in particular, but for this, I just really loved the morality in it. I love that the superpower is very closely tied to psychedelics and the psychedelic experience and like the pantheon. And I also love a magic system that has physical cost or like it has a cost to use it, because for me, when I imagine magic, I imagine it as something that like costs you physically or like costs you mentally. Or it's like a process to learn how to use it with your mind and not just like with a magic wand, which is like another problem I have with Harry Potter. But but I also like Harry Potter, sans J.K. Rowling. But yeah, so I just like really loved that this was like really deep in the cost of the magic system, the morality of the character. This was one of like the first female characters that I really, really loved. Sometimes I have a hard time with female characters because I feel like they end up being like templates for being like, look, give me points. I wrote a female character rather than actually wanting to write a good female character. And yeah, so this is a book where I was like, wow, a female character can be someone who like I can like really relate to in a way that I felt like she was like complete in her humanity and being a woman like didn't shade her story in the way that usually female characters get shaded, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would say one thing about this book. I kept getting this book at the library when it first came out. Really excited. I kept getting it. And then I would start reading it and it was so devastating.
Yeah,
It was just straight out of the gate. Like then I would be like, oh, okay, I'm not quite ready for this because my, it's mirroring a little too closely what, I'm trying to escape, not.
Yeah.
What advice would you give people to kind of get over that hump of it starts out from the go in this place? Like I think some of it was I just wasn't prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would say it might not be for you. And there's a lot of books that are really good escapism. And like that's why Kwong, I think, is kind of a decisive author because a lot of her books are like that.
So true.
And, for example, like Babel, that was another book where I was just like completely blown away by like the magic system, like the linguistics tied to magic. I was like, this is so cool. But I love hitting like found family. And that book was like I was like so excited when I found out that part of the book. But that said, when things started going a little bit sideways in that book, because I read this, I was like, I don't know if I want to read the rest of it. And that sits unfinished on my shelf because I knew that like, okay, if Kwong commits, she's going to go all the way. And if I feel like I can't handle this right now, I'm going to put it down.
You could save for another.
Yeah. So I admire her work, but yeah, sometimes she goes like a little bit too far for me.
Yeah.
Especially when I kind of have like an issue with, I love Kwong. I'm actually going to go see her talk for Litquake. She's going to be in San Francisco for a talk, and I'm going to go to that every God tickets. I'm super excited. But one of the things that does bother me about her work is that she's very nihilistic sometimes, and I just don't think that that's always necessary. But that's me personally.
Right.
Yeah, and the other good thing about this series is that it's just like so readable. Like all 3 books were just amazing. Like it was one of those books where you like stay up late reading it, or you want to like take a day off work and just read.
Right.
So whenever a book does that, I'm into it. It's really popular. Obviously, I don't think I'm being like original by choosing this, but it's deserved. So yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry. Now I'm going really long.
Okay, what's the next one?
My next book is Assassin. This is also an extremely popular book, and I'm not being original at all. It's Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I also love this because it also has magic system with like the cost, and we really get into the experience of what it's like to use the magic system in this book. And it's hugely, deeply character based. And I just really love that. There are some spots in it that felt a little bit slow to me, but in general, I just like loved the character journey approach to fantasy. And I think Robin Hobb just like really excels in that. And I love the character. I love all the characters in this book, honestly. I think they're all kind of like interesting and like kooky. And yeah, it's a Hallmark fantasy book too. So if you're like just starting to get into fantasy, I think this is a good one to pick up.
That's true.
George R.R. Martin says fantasy as it ought to be written. Robin Hobb's books are diamonds in a sea of zircons. So,
Oh, that's good. That's nice. You brought kind of an entry, sort of your entry into fantasy, because I think
Yeah.
sometimes people pick up the epics
Yeah.
because they're so popular, and then they're like, "What in the world is this book?" You know?
Right. Yeah. So that's a good one. I will say, okay, my rant. We're going late. Okay, I'll try to make it a quick rant. So actually, my favorite fantasy of this year so far was The Will of the Many and the Strength of the Few. That was my favorite fantasy book last year to this year. Though I work for Libro FM, and one of my projects recently has been like looking at the Audible exclusive titles and like inventorying them just to make sure that like our system is robust and potentially counting any like counterfeit books that come into our systems. And I had a really hard moment because James Islington, who's the author of The Will of the Many and the Strength of the Few, is an Audible exclusive author.
Mm.
And I don't know, I find that just honestly inexcusable. And for me as a reader, I was just like, I can't recommend this book in good faith anymore.
We should say for people that don't know that Audible is owned by Amazon.
Yes. Yeah, Audible is owned by Amazon. Amazon is horrible for authors, booksellers, basically anyone. They're bad for everyone, but especially like this group of people where they use books as a loss leader to grow.
Hello, everybody. Lit Love has been having some issues with recording equipment, and we're working on that. But as you probably saw, this video was truncated due to technical difficulties that we've been having. We've recorded a bunch of episodes all at once, and on this particular day, it affected a few of our podcasts. So I'm so sorry about that. We're really working on it. We hope to have it resolved next month when you will see us again. Or actually, not next month, this month, because it's August. Wow, summer went by, huh? All right. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you got some good ideas for your fantasy reads. I am really excited about reading mine, which is actually this one, The Ballad of Falling Dragons by Sarah Parker. So loved her first book, When the Moon Hatched. So amazing. Look how beautiful this book is. The pages inside are also really gorgeous. I just started reading it. As you can see, here's my bookmark. I'm so excited. It's amazing. Pick it up if you can. Great reads. Also, I've gotten these books at the library before, so both When the Moon Hatched and this book are available at the Santa Cruz Library. So take good care, my friends, and we'll see you in the next one.